Welcome, everybody. I have a special treat for you today. The authors of a new book called The Ancestors Within, Reveal and Heal the Ancient Memories You Carry, are here with me to talk about ancestral healing and everything to do with it. You guys just get ready for this conversation. Reading this book took me to another level of possibility when it comes to healing. And I am so excited to be introducing you to the amazing authors and master teachers stepping up in this book. Today, please help me welcome Jean Ruchok Ekman, Carol Dutton, Myrna Triano, and Melissa Jolly Graves. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
So you guys, Jean is a genealogist, researcher, writer, and the publisher editor of Therapeutic Times magazine. Carol Dutton is the owner of Being You Energetically and an expert subtle energy practitioner, Reiki master, and Irogenics ancestral eye reader, ordained minister who clears traumatic and ancestral patterns. Myrna Triano is a licensed massage therapist, craniosacral therapy practitioner, master teacher practitioner of integrated energy therapy. Mm-hmm. And Melissa Jolly Graves is associational thinker. That was a new word for me. Associational thinker, telepathic speaker, channeler, seer, counselor for ghosts and spirits, and a healer. Easy for me to say on those bios, right, ladies? Okay. You guys, thank you so much for saying yes to this project, first of all, and for really taking on the challenge, because it's one thing to tell your story. If, you all have written a thing or two, but it's quite another thing to step up and teach in a way that you guys did, in black and white, so that the reader gets a practical experience with your tools. And I just wanted to say thank you for doing that so beautifully and powerfully. I'm going to start today with Jean. Jean, talk to us about the chapter that you wrote.
So I wrote, I believe it's chapter 20. It's called Ancestral Healing Through Genealogy, How Genealogy Can Help You Find and Recognize Repetitive Familial Practices and patterns, excuse me. So what that is I took my love of genealogy and I found ancestral healing as a modality recently. And I took a class through Center for Excellence, got certified with that. And I just kind of combined the two in this. So it's finding your roots, but it's also finding those patterns that make you who you are and things that you need to work on and things that you need to forgive your ancestors for so that they can move on.
So tell me a little bit more about the tool itself. How are you guiding people?
So the particular tool I used is a timeline. I gave one example. I did my fifth great grandmother, Margaret Still, had a child out of wedlock. Back in 1808, that was unheard of. So her father, who was a wealthy tavern owner, put her out on a farm in a nearby town, close enough to watch, but far enough away that the families didn't nobody gossiped. And so I took a timeline of her life because I've been trying to ascertain who the father is of my fourth great grandfather. And it just kind of helped me put things in perspective. It helped me learn a little bit more about the history of Chester County, Pennsylvania. And it also helped me learn a little bit more about my family and recognize that it was okay to have a kid out of wedlock, even in 1808, and and I see that pattern several times over in the family. So
I don't know how many chapters, probably many of them, if I counted them up, talk about the patterns. And so would you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think that one particular awareness is really important. It's something you can be looking for, but how does it come up at first? Yeah.
So there's lots of different patterns. One example I gave in the article was employment. I'm from Coatesville, which is a very small town, steel town. Everybody in Coatesville has worked at Lucan's or has had a family member work at Lucan's Steel Mill. It's called something else now, but that's here nor there. And I trace, using that as an example, who in my family has worked there. I'm probably the first one in my family that did not work there. But we have lots of aunts, uncles, cousins, all worked at the same place. So it just showed a little history about the town as well as the people. Found out that Rochak, no great surprise, I'm Eastern Europe, specifically Polish, Russian, Ukrainian. Depending on which census you look at, depends on which truth was told. And found out that Lucan Steel actually brought in people from those regions to work there. And that's why Coatesville is very ethnically diverse, because they brought people from Eastern Europe, they brought people up from the South, and anyone just kind of, it helped with that pattern for formulating the employment. Likewise, my Irish side all worked in the mines in Shenandoah, Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania. So again, there was an employment pattern. There's a pattern of miscarriages in my family, which I did not find out until I myself had one. And my mom was like, "Oh, I'm sure it's for the better." What a blow. I was devastated. Ran to my grandmother in tears, and not her mom, but my paternal mom, my paternal grandmother. And in the course of me telling her this very raw story about how hurt I was, she said, my grandfather leaned over and he goes, "Anna, I think it's time we tell her." And she goes, "Oh, honey, I had one. I had a hard time getting pregnant." And then I just found out all these family members who had had similar problems. And again, it just, those patterns, sometimes you don't find them on the census, but sometimes you have to find them through oral history.
Yes, thank you for giving us some examples. That those are powerful as well. It's so cool to have these new kinds of awarenesses, you guys, and where it can lead you. Yes. So, Carol, you're next. Tell us about this beautiful chapter that you wrote.
My chapter, I cover the trials of my husband's rare muscle disease and walking through some of the, what do we do now? How can you have a genetic disease and have 8 children in the family and you're the only one that has it? And it was just a difficult thing until I started looking in the history of the family and when his disease took place, and that discovered since he was 51, when he started showing all the symptoms, learned that his grandmother and great grandfather both died at the age of 51.
Wow. Yeah. So, what do you do with that kind of information?
I decided that it needed to be discussed as recognizing the trials and tribulations that they had, regardless of what caused their death at such an early age, and deal with giving them grace for what they lived through, when they passed away, giving them the opportunity to continue on, but not have to continue to affect the ancestral downline because of their problems. So I created a journaling exercise uh, where it's called Rapture Journaling. So it's respecting them, acknowledging what they went through, and each step brings you closer to the final ending of expressing your love for what they went through and the gratitude for what they did for the family.
So, I know that your journey was alongside your husband's.
Yes.
And we even talked about that prior to you stepping into the project and writing the chapter. How has this helped him?
Um, he came to terms with some of the ancestral stuff. It's been difficult for him to do the journaling exercise. He doesn't like to express well, because he's internalized so much stuff throughout his life, but he felt safe in doing it, but he didn't want to write it. So we just occasionally verbally go through it for him. And it has brought him some peace, even though his muscle disease is still continuing to advance. It's advancing at a slower pace.
And I know it, I mean, it had quite a big impact on you. Will you touch on that for a minute?
Absolutely. Getting the diagnosis, that thinking that he was going to be in a wheelchair and a care facility within 6 months. And at that point, I was in my early 50s and thinking, how am I going to navigate through all of this, seeing my entire financial future just disintegrating, and realizing that I could learn some of the tools to help him. So that's when I went into and I learned Reiki. I've done 3 years of apprenticeship for learning subtle energy medicine. And now I've got it's called a Pandora Star machine that does uh, light training for changing brain waves. And he absolutely loves that. Without his journey, I would not have gone into any of these healing treks. And when my corporate job ended in January of 2020, it was time to start my own business, offer all of this healing to my community. So it's been a win-win for me. And I've grown internally from his trials.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that journey. And for all of you, seriously, to, you're trailblazing the authentic storytelling in a way that I think goes above and beyond. And that's really part of what my mission is with these books, is to give the reader that story that helps them get to know you as their teacher, so that by the time it's, you're ready to teach them something and say, hey, you need to listen to what I have to say because this works, right? But who are you to tell me what works? Like, let me get to know you. And you all were all so beautifully genuine and authentic and raw and real and open about your stories. It's so important. It makes it such a powerful book. Mirna, talk to us about your beautiful chapter.
Mine is chapter 25. Our ancestors are the way showers. And I wrote about creating flow and making life-changing decisions with ease. And as many of you have read my chapter, I broke down my whole life in 5 pages. And this is just to let people know that we all had a lot of experience that I had, but I was able to just smash it up in 5 pages just to get people aware that we all go through similar challenges together in different ways and different experiences, and things just fall in your lap. You had no idea, whoa, why is this happening again? Or, oh, now I understand. It's actually teaching me to look inward, and also from our ancestors' answers as well. They're there to help us. So that's why I did it that way.
So talk to us a little bit about your tool.
Oh, my tool is a great example today was I got some sad news from a friend, a very close family friend that passed, and she was like a mom to me. My mom lives out west, she's mom here. 10 minutes before the podcast, I did my tool, my 444 tool. Took my 4 deep breaths in, hold it, created a space of a loving memory, and smiled and did my four breaths out. I know from this breathing tool, I have done it throughout the whole entire writing of this chapter. I've done it to get out of my way. I showed other people about it that never experienced even breathing. High attention deficit people that just are just go, 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 and just need to step down and get back to themselves. This is why I created it. There's so many out there doing this, going through this at this time. And I had to say yes because it's a wonderful time for us to step up in all our different modalities for everyone right now in this world that we're experiencing this stuff. and immense measures. So that's why I introduced the 4-4 step of breathing.
Yeah, simple, powerful tool. All of you are offering these kinds of tools. You guys, these books are very powerful toolkits. And we were talking about this before we started our recording, how cool it is that everybody can offer something in their own unique way and offer the people of the world, all the readers, all of the different varieties and versions of what we're teaching. And that's really needed, because no one way is the way for everybody. And so what I want that to do for you listeners is, like, if you're one of those people who has tried everything, or you're just at the end of the rope and you're like, I have done everything, there's nothing else. Well, that's not true. There's something else. And there's a different kind of version of it. And one of these beautiful authors may just share their story or their tool in a particular way where you have that light bulb moment. And so we want to give you that hope. That's one of the missions really in a book like this. Melissa, talk to us about your chapter.
Okay, so I am the Secrets of the Stones, How to Channel Your Ancestors Through Crystals. And my chapter came from a place of really thinking about everyone. When we were young and we would go outside, every child picks up rocks. They put them in their stones. We go through the playground, we pick them all up. And in my chapter, I talk about my journey picking up all these stones all my life and holding them close to my heart. I remember getting some that I just felt bad if I gave them away or I put them outside. And in my chapter, I speak about the journey of how the crystals came to be and show their energy, and me gazing in their energy found all of these ancestors and why people are so involved with crystals. And it's because everything that ever existed above ground that has passed away, whether it be, people or the animals or the trees, have died down, and all that energy, whatever wasn't sifted through the soils and stuff, goes into the DNA of the crystals. And those crystals that we hold actually hold the DNA of the ancestors, of the once living things. And so I speak about my journey and opening that up. And then the tool that I use is how you can connect, how you can tap into that and just find a calm place, gaze into the crystals and feel what you feel with your body, with your mind, with your soul, and in hopes that eventually people will get the vision of their ancestors, because during my journey, I got the vision of seeing them around. And I'm hoping that everybody can open up their personal spiritual council members is how I see it with these crystals. And that's my hope for people when they read my chapter.
I only dabbled with crystals enough to be dangerous before I read your chapter, and have always loved rocks, and like since I was a kid, right? Just drawn to that. But I have to tell you that you just sort of gave me a whole new appreciation for why I love them so much, and why I will hold one in my hand for a really long time, and why that feels good to me. And even just the why behind those feelings and wanting to explore it more, right? So you guys, I got to tell you, if you're interested in that and you've had the draw, Melissa's chapter is going to do that for you, but she's also going to give you another way to use them as tools, which is even better. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about that piece, Melissa?
About the tools piece?
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of time, especially where we're at with the world right now, we're in chaotic energy. And so a lot of times when we're stepping out into communities, when we're just in our daily lives, we don't check into ourselves. We don't check into our body. We don't check into what is our energy versus somebody else's energy. And so the tool that I am speaking about is just to find a nice calm place, to find whatever crystals, that you want to utilize to start to notice a change in your body, to notice the different of energy. And it's a safe place to do it with the crystals and the ancestors, because they are naturally there calling us. They're using these as microphones, really. We have otoliths in our ears, which are crystals that are in our ears that shake. And so when we're holding crystals and we're noticing our body versus the crystal's body versus what it brings together, this brings almost a church atmosphere, because you got your Holy Trinity, you got wherever two come, we have church. And so we're, and not to get into that religious side, whatever you guys want to see as church, but I see my church and my place of being with nature, being with God, being with my ancestors, and whatever they have to tell me from the other side seems to be my greatest gifts and my greatest messages that I could receive. And
So, Melissa, I want to stick with you for this next question that's going to come around to all of you. I'm sitting here listening to you talk about crystals as an awareness tool, and essentially you are all teaching awareness tools in some form. Awareness is foundational, says Laura. Okay. I mean, honestly, that's the practice and the discipline. And there's so many ways we can practice, including, crystals or all of the different, literally hundreds, maybe thousands of ways. If we're interested in a juicy, full, vibrant life, we have to think about what our awareness practice is. So, Melissa, talk to me about that practice in terms of your own personal journey. We know it's important, but tell me a little bit about your own experience.
Okay. So I was born into a chaotic life, we'll just say that. And I had a lot of misadventures, or I don't know, however you want to say it. And we're not going to go into those because everybody has, something that goes wrong in their life. But it seemed to me like it was happening a lot. And I would get caught up in that energy. And I got caught up in my family drama and my family and my friends' drama and all of this. And it just got to the point where I don't want this life. I'm a healer and I don't want to be involved. And this was the beginning of healing for me. And so I had to step back and think, what does it mean to be a healer? Because I'm integrating my energies with the people that I'm involved with my crystals. And that's how I started that whole journey, is cleansing them. And I realized how involved I was with the universe. And so I really had to start to step back and have my alone place and say, what do I feel when I'm alone? What does my body feel? What does my spirit feel? What does my emotions feel? And when I was alone, I realized that it was so much different than when I integrated myself with the universe. And that to me then allowed me to start catching, if I'm in a happy mode and I'm walking through Target and suddenly I'm sad, that's not me. But maybe I can say I love you and give that to somebody else. And then I don't have to hold on to that energy, because I realized that once I started noticing the energies outside of mine, that I could better see them, I could better address them, and I could send them love and give them that good energy rather than holding on to their bad energy. And so that's really important, just that self-awareness to know your energy versus anybody else's energy. Because otherwise, how do you know what you're holding or what you have to heal or what you have to deal with in your life, or what trauma is yours versus somebody else's, maybe your best friend?
I consider that a ninja move of awareness. Like when you're mastering this, then you are discerning between yours and other people's. And not only that, but what Melissa just said is you're instantly transforming it. That's, I don't know, I call them ninja moves because it takes some practice to be able to go there and be able to do that quickly and not hang around for a week with that terrible energy, not knowing what happened to you, so I love that you're talking about that so much. Myrna, tell me a little bit about awareness in your life. What's it meant to you?
Oh, it has immensely a lot of growth for me. It was a lot of growth to go inward and find the best modality for me to distinguish who, like Melissa was saying, what is mine and what is theirs. So that putting myself in that quiet space and doing this tool, because this tool was initial for me. I have, families with anxiety so much in my family that we needed to just get back to ourselves and ground. And no one ever taught us this until I went on my journey and said, okay, what will work for Myrna at this time in my life that will help my ancestors to move from away from this mindset that they're trapped. So I do implement my 444 time. And when I do my 444 time, I also journal what I'm feeling and then release it and let it go. Because that's another, when you have a visual acting with the breathing, it locks it in and it transmutes it and takes it where it's supposed to go, and not inwardly keeping it inside, because we're empath. I'm very empathic, so I do feel stuff. But this is why I chose this role of healing, because we're all there, but we are able to hone in those skills to help others as well.
And what an amazing responsibility we have all taken on. I'll give you guys, kudos for being the trailblazers of this and really choosing. And we were talking about it in another interview, but you're the one in the generation who is now healing and healing multiple generations in all different directions. And that's big. This is like big potatoes kind of healing, to be aware of yourself like that, to be able to take on that responsibility and be like, you know what, I'm stopping this pattern right here with me. Exactly. And do it. Yeah, it's awesome.
I agree. Thank you.
Carol, talk to us about awareness. How does this show up in your life? Unmute, girl.
One of those moments, maybe I wasn't supposed to say anything at that second.
It's okay. Happens to all of us.
For awareness, what I have had to do is understand, as Melissa was saying, what's really mine. And my family, the family dynamics, I have always been the peacemaker, always the one who smooths things over, tries to heal everything. And I didn't even understand that so much until I started getting into the trainings that I've done for the Reiki and subtle energy medicine. So it really makes me think of not necessarily boundaries of my energy, but the awareness of where I allow my energy to go, or whose energy I allow to interact in a more intimate manner. Of when you feel uncomfortable at this grocery store, standing in line, and everybody starts pressing a little bit closer and a little bit closer, and you're like, get back, get back. And I realized that it doesn't really matter how close they get, as long as I set the strong energy field around me, that it doesn't have to interact, and I don't have to cure everybody that I'm interacting with. That a lot of the responsibility, just like Melissa said, you can send them love and send them on their way, and you don't have to be responsible for holding any of their energetic hurts or traumas or even their problems. It's up to them to heal them, and all you do it is do it with love.
These ladies are talking about what I believe to be another level of this practice. So for our listeners, when I started this journey, I had to connect really by asking myself a very, very basic question. And that was, what do I feel? And I had to just ground and center and breathe and notice, and then begin to understand, things that felt good, things that felt bad. Awareness of my body, awareness of my thoughts were the foundational journey in for me to these types of things that we're talking about today. And so that's why we talk about it as a practice. It is a lifelong practice and mastery. And we can start to talk about things like not only discerning between other people's stuff and your own stuff, But then beyond that, in hearing the messages from your ancestors literally in your ear, and as people talk about hearing the messages and seeing things and all of the amazing things we can sense, there is a whole spectrum of where people are at with this awareness thing. And so I just want to mention that my journey in had to start with, like, what do I even feel right now in this room, in this chair, right? As a basic way in. Jean, how would you talk about awareness in terms of your personal journey?
Well, it's kind of difficult. I've never not been aware of my ancestors. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, started me with the family history when I was very young. And it would start with, let's go visiting the aunts. And I would go visit the entire family. And then it just kind of grew from there. And then the other grandmother took me to all the different aunts when I would stay over. And it just kind of evolved from there. And it was so natural for me to talk to my ancestors because when my grandmother would take me, not only did we visit the living, we went to every cemetery that they were, the ancestors were buried at. And we would stop at each grave and we would talk to each person, and she would tell me a little bit about each person. And then little by little, we got to the graves that she didn't know because I had found them. I almost had dug them up and then thought better of it. But so we would go to these other cemeteries, and then I would tell her about, who this person was or who that person was. And she would go, oh yeah, they're related this way. And then I got connected with other people in the family. And I was very fortunate because she started me so young. The one side of the family lived very, very long. So I had some great aunts that were into their, almost 100. And, I had these 90-year-old women sitting around talking to me. So I had personal stories, and I had stories of their grandmothers and so on and so forth. So my awareness was just something that was always there. It wasn't, and I'll be doing genealogy, and it doesn't even have to be for my own. It can be for somebody else because I do it for clients as well. And before I start to work on the genealogy, I will just kind of take a moment, I'll meditate. I'll think about the person that I'm in search of that particular day, or the area, because sometimes I'll do a name, sometimes I'll do just a surname, and sometimes I'll do just an area. And if I'm blocked. And so I just kind of think about that person, that place, and just kind of go with it. And then all of a sudden, the answers kind of come. It's kind of like somebody above is going, hey, this is what you need to know today. The right documents fall in the right places. And it doesn't matter whether I'm at ancestry.com or I'm at the archives. I can't wait to get back to the archives, going through physical paperwork. So the awareness was just always something. I wasn't aware of it, until I learned about ancestral healing as an actual modality. And then I was like, wow, this is so cool. And now I find myself calling upon them in a different way. My awareness is also something that not just the meditative, but I journal as well. And that helps a great deal because I don't put everything in Ancestry. There are some things that stayed family secrets for a reason. So they get journaled about so that I don't forget, but they don't need to be out there. I don't need to air my dirty laundry or my family's.
I love that. One of my very favorite awareness tools is the journaling and the writing to heal. It's amazing. And you guys, I love understanding what else is possible in terms of healing in general. Carol, talk to me about something you realized was possible in terms of understanding your ancestors and healing.
One of the very first things that I learned in Reiki was being able to do distance healing. I didn't understand it. I didn't believe it. And it's like, that's just a little too woo-woo for me. Well, not anymore, because I was having a session with an intuitive healer. And my questions to her was, is Reiki something I'm really supposed to be doing? Am I supposed to be offering it? I was just second guessing. It's always that doubt creeps in. And we're doing this over the phone, and all of a sudden she's laughing and she's asking, um, do you have a grandmother that has passed? And I said, all my grandmothers have passed. And as she's talking, I realize who she's talking about is my mother, who had passed about 4 years previous to this. And she said, well, she just hopped on my massage table and is saying, Carol, heal me. And I just couldn't even believe this. And she said, Carol, you have to do a session on your mother. And I'm crying, thinking, how can I even do this? Well, that evening, I just kind of set myself up, just did a very grounding exercise and started doing a Reiki session with my mother's spirit on my table. And at the end, I'm hearing her say, thank you so much. That was wonderful. This is how distance healing can work.
Mm.
And so that was really the opening up of being able to do an ancestral healing.
Wow, if that isn't a what else is possible story, I don't know what is. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. How amazing. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Jean, I'm actually going to pop back to you with the same question. Was there something?
I was lost in her answer.
I know. So amazing. I mean, honestly, you guys, you know, one of my missions is to get rid of the term woo. Just for obvious reasons that all of you know in this room, there is a whole spectrum of stuff we just don't know. And people like to label it that to kind of brush it under the rug as whatever. But like, I'm here to say no, like, you need to pay attention, especially if you're stuck in a life that is not joyful and you're looking for ways to make that better. Because if you're one of those people who's like tried everything and you're up against the wall thinking, oh, there's so many other possibilities that you just need to have an open mind to. Just listen and notice your reactions. Notice what triggers you when someone talks about healing their dead mother on a massage table with Reiki. I mean, just notice. Right. You need to understand that these are experiences that people have had. And I think the world is coming around to understanding that what's possible. That's why I love this question. Anyway, Jean, what about you?
The question?
In terms of what is something you learned that was possible when you started to dabble with ancestral healing specifically?
Just the fact that I could go backwards and forwards. Like it never dawned on me that, you know, I got the ancestral healing, you know, they're ancestors, I can do that. But it never dawned on me by healing them, I would also be healing my grandchildren and my great grandchildren. You know, I have several grandchildren, but I don't have great grandchildren yet, and God willing won't for a while. But it never dawned on me that I can help them by helping my ancestors. So it truly is I think it's a Native American saying that there's belief that you go 7 up, 7 back, and they're all kind of entwined. And I forget how the phrase goes, but it really hit home when I saw that. I read that idea when I was looking into the ancestral healing aspect. So it just kind of really, everything hit home all at once.
I love this idea. It's powerful. It's a powerful idea, especially if you're a person who's having trouble doing the healing work for yourself. And when you imagine the people you love, like all I really have to do is imagine my daughter, imagine my mom, imagine my grandma, imagine what in any direction, it motivates me, it inspires me. Okay, if I can't do this for myself, then maybe I could help my daughter to do this work. So I love that. Melissa, what about you in terms of something you realized was possible?
So in my journeying with the crystals and getting to know the ancestors, one thing that I realized was all of the things that we don't get over. So when we think of shame, guilt, regret, loss, despair, anger, all of these, what some people would call negative, I call heavy feelings. And they're so heavy that they don't allow our spirit to rise. And so this becomes some of the ghost energy. This becomes some energy that stays here. And what I realized was that they were stuck because of things that they have done to us, or because of things that we've done to each other through the family. And so I had found a way to start talking to them. And this is where I do my ghost and my spiritual counseling, is that they actually want to be talked to. They want to know that everything's okay. They want to know that you're going to make everything okay. And like Carol said, they still want the energy, because there's parts of them that need that extra light or that extra motivation to move on. And so when we, Jean had said it, I believe, and when we heal all of you said it, when we heal ourselves, we heal so much. And, I'm hearing Jean's story and like the miscarriages, and I'm like, wow, for me as a healer, and now this might not be for her, but one of the things that I found is that there was a rape or some kind of sexual thing that happened to great grandma. And she never got to tell her story, and nobody said. So we'll see ancestries, lines of problems and with the uterus, could be cancer and stuff too. But when we ignore that and that she's on, and she's been the reason why maybe some of the women are apprehensive about relationships. When we heal, so when Jean heals, now all of them heal, and then exactly forward, because what I see as a source coder is I see DNA. So we actually put the DNA back together. We actually put the right frequencies, right symbols, right moments back, so that now they know family's taken care of, and I can go and I've been forgiven. And what's going to happen to the future, I'm going to go on to be a spiritual guide rather than a spiritual ghost. And it gives them more hope, and it gives them more aspirations to move on to that other side where they can come back, that 7 and 7, and start to heal us also.
I love that. Oh my goodness. I know you guys are listening, and I'm hoping your minds are getting just might be a little bit, it might be a lot, not a little bit, might be a lot to take in, but understanding the power of this is, I think, such a gift. Myrna, what about you? What's something you realized was possible when you started dabbling with ancestral work?
The key word is follow intuition. I finally followed my intuition that was always there. We all have it. You just gotta pop it in. Maybe a traumatic experience like forces that little vision to come through, and you're like, oh wow, this is amazing. This is a whole new world. And people who have seen me working in the corporate environment, an example, I had one woman come to me, and she's a dear friend, and I worked on her with the angel and integrative energy therapy, and I felt her mom and her dad, who passed this year, through her as proxy. Literally side by side, they're both going, tell her this, it's not her fault, this is not what she needs to experience in this life. We're here coaching her. Enough abandonment issues, enough of feeling self-worth less. That's a key word, self-worth less. You can do this. Myrna's here channeling through this, and you got this. And the ironic thing about this session was, even the person I was working with, she's intuitive, and it just opened her up too. And she has made clear, conscious decisions quicker than she's ever had since she's been seeing therapy at 16 years old.
And hence one of the biggest gifts of these kinds of tools, everybody. Like just being able to make those decisions, trusting your intuition and making those decisions from that connected place. And then many of you today have mentioned, having that team behind you that you're trusting those messages from. Okay, you guys, I got another question. We're going to go a little bit of a speed dating version on this one, okay, to wrap up here today. Myrna, you're going to be first on this one. So you guys, I know you know, but I believe one of my jobs as a healer, practitioner, helper of other people is to take exceptional care of myself so that I can serve from an overflow. And what I wanted you to share with the listeners is one, of the powerful things you do to take care of yourself, why it's worked for you so well, and hopes that they can hear these little tidbits and suggestions and maybe practice something different. So Myrna, what's one thing you do to take care of yourself?
I literally take a bath twice a week
I
with
thought you were just going to leave it there. Take a bath. I'm like, yes.
with crystals that are there for me during that time, talking to me, which is I love Melissa's chapter and everyone else's, but I do take these crystals in and I listen, and it says frankincense today, no, lavender the next day. That's my 20-minute go-to time, sitting there and breathing and soaking it all up with healing music on the background. Then I get up and just shower it all away and begin my day and keep going. I mean, I have to. I connect with water, I connect with nature, I connect with crystals. If I don't do that, I go to nature. If I don't do that, I hold crystals. If I don't do that, I take breathing, journaling. But every one of those things have helped me get back to myself and ground and regenerate again. It's just regeneration, rejuvenation, reset button on a CPU, computer, turn it on, turn it off. All your softwares are working well. You're back to your optimal self and you're not taking it all in.
Awesome, Myrna. Where can people find out more about you?
At www.triangelrivers.com. Everything's there. Ever since this is happening, I have opened up Zoom sessions now. So I'm confident that I can work with you through Zoom session as well as in person. That's
all right,
where you can find me.
And I'm going to have you guys all hooked up in the show notes with these websites. And so our listeners are going to be able to connect with you. Melissa, what's one thing you do to take care of yourself?
Well, Myrna kind of got my answer. I'm the same way. I actually take a bath probably twice a day because it's in your own frequencies. But another way, just to give them a different thing is I have many of herbs. So I sit in my kitchen after the end of the day and ask which ones are going to be serving for me. And then I sit with my little pot and stir them up whenever they tell me they're ready to go in. And then I just sit and take that energy in and offer it a cup also to my spirit guides and my ancestors so that they can have a cup of tea with me. And then we kind of counsel each other that way too.
Beautiful. Where can people find out more about you?
www.euphoricsource.com. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll be there. And yeah.
Jean, what do you do? What's part of your amazing magical self-care routine?
Probably not a great big surprise here. I journal.
We talked about that a little bit.
And I journal insofar as when I need to get something off my chest. Sometimes I don't write it in my journal. Carol, this is something you might want to try with your husband. I write it on a piece of paper, and then I either burn the paper, bury the paper, however it feels at that particular time. But if it's something I absolutely do not want my children reading when they get my journals after I'm dead and gone, then I will burn it, destroy it somehow, but it's off my chest. And that's the big thing.
Nice. Where can people find out more about you?
They can find out about me at ancestralpassages.com. I'm also on Facebook by the same name.
Great, thank you. And last but not least, Miss Carol, what are you doing these days to take care of yourself?
Nature is what really refuels me. So I try to make time. Living in Minnesota in the wintertime, it can be kind of difficult to do that. But even looking out my window, there's a huge oak tree that I have a very special connection with. And so even if I can't go out by that tree, I can still feel refueled by having conversations with the tree through the window. Another thing that I sometimes do when nature isn't able to refuel me is the journaling. And just like Jean said, most of my journals, I make it a ritual. So I'll write what I'm feeling, but it will be a ritual of destroying it, because if I'm writing about a problem, it's like I just destroyed the problem.
I love that. I love that. I use journaling as well. It's one of the tools that I love the most, and I'll definitely take my notebooks out into nature to have the double whammy. I like that double whammy. Carol, where can everyone find out more about you?
My website is www.beingyouenergetically.com. And since that's still under construction, I have also created one, www.carolduttonusa.com.
Awesome. And I'm going to have the links for everybody so you can explore these beautiful authors. You guys, The Ancestors Within, the book launches into the world on May 4th. So be sure to join us for our live stream book launch party event on the Brave Badass Healers Facebook page, where all of our authors will gather to share their expertise and their wisdom. And we'll be doing some really fun giveaways that day. And you're going to find all of that information down below as well. And of course, if you're listening to this after May 4th, well, that means the book is out on Amazon and you need to hop on over and grab your copy and just partake in the powerful stories and tools that all of these authors are offering. Yeah, we can't wait to connect with you. One other place that you can connect is the Ancestors Within community Facebook group, you guys. I don't know another book project where you'll be able to come into a community, rub elbows with all of these beautiful authors, ask them questions, take that next step with them. And you'll find that in the book, they have resources for you and are ready and waiting to talk to you about this wonderful topic, really life-changing topic. So until next time, you guys, what if the thing you're a little afraid to share is exactly the thing someone needs to hear to change or even save their life? It's time to be brave. Explore all the Brave Healer offerings for healers who are ready to share their brave words at bravehealer.com. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
All right. Thank you.